Chronicles of Allimir. The Key to Taghairn Hold. Chapter 1. Sibling Rivalry. Laying in a perfect bed of white silk, Allimir gazed upon the face of his love. She spoke, but no sound escaped her lips. He strained to hear, but still nothing. Fuerte's facial expression transformed into one of panic, desperately trying to make herself heard. A voice, not that of Fuerte's, began to grow in Allimir's ears as she spoke. "Wake up! Wake up!" The voice was familiar, but confusion was clouding Allimir's mind. And what was that pain? Allimir's left thigh felt as if a mark of Krillmore was being branded upon it. "Wake up! Wake up!" Fuerte mouthed, but whose voice was that? Violently, Fuerte, the silk sheets, and Allimir's entire surroundings were dragged away as if a mage had performed an elaborate illusion. Allimir opened his eyes. Anon slapped Allimir on the back. "Well, my friend, you've done it. You've battled against all adversity, triumph and disaster. Defeated foes that, let's be honest, you had no right to. But here you stand regardless, triumphant, the first Inalu in the history of your people to be allowed to compete for a dowry. But more than that, a dowry of the woman you love." Allimir embraced Anon heartily. "Without you, my friend, I am sure I would have perished 100 times over." Smiling and grabbing Anon by the shoulders firmly, Allimir spoke again. "I am, and always will be, eternally grateful for your friendship, Anon." Anon coughed, as if clearing his throat, turned his head away slightly, and wiped something from his cheek. "Is that a tear I see from the mighty and brave Anon?" Allimir questioned, smiling. Anon coughed again. No," Anon declared defensively. It's just some dust in my eye." Allimir laughed. "Of course it is, my emotional friend. Let us go from this dusty place and celebrate with some fine Nord mead at the Honey Badger Tavern." Allimir threw his arm around Anon's shoulder, and the two companions left to drink and recall stories of victory and adventure. Trinitel sat in his parliamentary chamber, head in hands, troubled by the events that had passed. The chamber was located at the centre of Hallandun, on the uppermost branch, a great hall constructed from the fallen branches of Falanesti, topped with a majestic roof of weaved straw and adorned with signature decorations of recognition by the greatest master craftsman of the clan. Leading up to the chambers was a flight of double-width steps cut directly from the very branches of the immense tree. Inside the chambers was a great hall, every wall displaying highly colourful crests of former clan leaders. In the centre of the room was an enormous table, large enough to seat 50, and at the far end of the hall, the head of the main table, was another, smaller, but extremely ornate desk. Here sat Trinitel, his own crest adorning the wall behind him. The sound of footsteps shook Trinitel from his thoughts. Looking up, he saw Diblas approaching, gliding towards him, as always, wringing his hands. "My liege, forgive the interruption. I have news pertaining to our arrangement. The bandit leader possesses an orb of Thrain, which can be used to communicate over vast distances. As it so happens, I also possess such an orb. The bandit leader has agreed to our terms, and I have dispatched 2 of the city guard to deliver the wood elf bane and his payment." "Am I doing the right thing, Diblas?" Trinitel asked with uncertainty. "I have been questioning my actions recently, and confusion clouds my mind." "This is not the time for incertitude, my liege. The future and strength of our clan depends on this one action. An Inalu cannot be allowed to become clan leader." I agree, Trinital said, but as a father I must question myself and the effects this will have on my beloved daughter. I have watched her with Allimir, the Analu, and have never seen her happier. Have I the right to deny her this? Diblas moved to Trinital's shoulder and whispered in his ear, "Stay strong to the task, my liege. This is what must be done." The two friends sat at the bar of the Honey Badger Tavern. Anon was recalling the story of Hag's End and the battle with the forsworn archer to a busty barmaid, embellishing his part in the story to the barmaid's delight. "How brave of you," the barmaid said, suggestively placing her hand on Anon's thigh. "Yes, some of us are born for greatness," Anon stated, egotistically. Allimir laughed to himself, shaking his head at Anon's unabashed personality. "What's that smell?" came a familiar snide voice from behind Allimir. Taghairn stood at the entrance to the tavern. "Oh, it's filthy Inalu, unmistakable. It fills my nostrils with repugnant disgust." The tavern fell silent. If not for the crackling of burning wood from the open hearth, a pin drop could have been heard. Anon stood and stepped in front of Allimir defensively, hand on hilt of his sword. "Perhaps you'd like to come over here and say that again, my friend," Anon spoke sternly. Allimir placed his hand on Anon's arm and shook his head. "Sit, my good friend. This is my brother Taghairn, and he does not deserve your energy." Anon sat back down, obeying Allimir's request. "That's right, Nord," Taghairn sneered. "Know your place." Within the blink of an eye, Allimir had unsheathed his dagger and dispatched it at Taghairn. A dull thud sounded as the dagger hit the tavern door, just below Taghairn's crotch. Looking totally bemused, his brother made a loud gulping sound. He walked over to Taghairn, who flinched nervously as Allimir reached down between his legs and removed the dagger from the tavern door. Whispering in Taghairn's ear, Allimir said, "Be careful who you insult, brother. I no longer suffer fools gladly." Running from the tavern, and when at a safe distance, Taghairn looked back and shouted, "You will regret ever returning here, Inalu. Just you wait and see. As Ifra is my witness, I will have my revenge." Allimir walked calmly back to the bar and sat down next to Anon. "I thought you said he wasn't worth the energy," Anon smirked. "No, I said he's not worth your energy, my friend." Both companions laughed. Anon patted his knee, gesturing to the barmaid to sit, and returned to the recollection of the Battle of Hag's End. "It's an ambush!" Anon shouted. "In Kind's name, or whatever weird and wonderful god you worship, get behind cover!" Looking down at his leg, Allimir saw an arrow had penetrated his thigh. It had gone through cleanly, and the arrowhead could be seen protruding from the other side. Breaking the shaft with his hand, Allimir pulled the arrow from his leg, screaming with anger more than pain, and scrambled behind a nearby rock, joining Anon. The two had been travelling for 1 moon. They had cleared the borders of Valenwood and had camped near a meandering stream, just inside Caiadil. Anon had told Allimir of a great treasure that lay unclaimed in the peaks of Mount Fingard. They decided that this may be worth investigating as a possible source of the 5,000 coins required on the dowry list. When they had bedded down for the night, it had been clear of sky, but now the rain was coming down like jagged shards of glass. Thunder cracked overhead like a cacophony of crashing cymbals, and lightning darted across the heavens in a battle of brilliance. "It's your brother!" Anon shouted. "He's on the crag above us. I saw him as the lightning lit up the rock face. The coward is looking to take revenge." Allimir peeked over the rock they were taking cover behind, but as he did, an arrow clattered off the surface, barely missing his face. "Can you draw his fire, Anon?" Allimir yelled, trying to make himself heard above the furious storm. "My leg will slow me down, and I am a keener shot with a bow." Anon pointed to a copse of trees a short distance away, and they both nodded. Darting out as fast as he could, Anon raced towards the trees. As he did, Allimir stood and took aim, and shot 3 arrows at a speed that surprised even him. The first winged Taghairn, striking his left arm. Screaming in pain, he turned and looked towards Allimir, their eyes meeting as the second, then third arrow struck home. A dark figure fell from the crag, striking several rocks before finally splashing into the shallow stream below. Anon walked back, shielding his face from the razor-like rain. Allimir stood silently, bow drawn, ready to fire off the next barrage, staring absent-minded. Anon placed his hand on Allimir's arm, gently encouraging him to lower the bow. "It's over, my friend," Anon said. "He's dead."
How can you see